Welcome to A Pinch of Basil. That's right. That's me. That would be me, by the way. A pinch of basil. I am Basil, for God's sakes. I am the host, the entertainer, the stand-up comedian, oh my God, there are so many words to express to what I am and what I do. And we're streaming live on Facebook. You can listen online at americamatters.us and on TuneIn app. You can, from your phone or tablet, just search America Matters so you don't have to have any excuses for not listening or watching us. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you all so much. I truly appreciate it. But don't forget, for all of you, you can actually call in. I actually have a couple of people calling in later on today that are attorneys, because we have a wonderful guest coming on shortly. But I'm here with my co-host, the wonderful Janice Hermson. We broadcast from wherever I happen to be at. Right now, I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. And the studio is live in Reno, Nevada, where we're here every week on Tuesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. New York City time. You can always find me at Basile Fans. That's BASILEFANS. That's one word, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. And in the next few weeks, we'll have some amazing guests, such as NFL star Bob Golick. That's right, from the Cleveland Browns back in the day when it was the Dog Pound, and also Sotiri, the Greek parody superstar who has done magnificent thing with some of the stuff that he's been on. This week we have internet lawyer Richard Chapo. No, he's not notorious like El Chapo, but Rich is the guy you want to know to keep yourself out of trouble when you have an online business. You don't want to miss this. This is unbelievable, especially if you have an online business. This is something that you really got to check out to protect yourself at all times. But right now, I'm here with my co-host, Janice Hermson. Janice, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, mine was awesome. How about you?
Unbelievable. I mean, it was a plethora of wonderful Greek food a la Thanksgiving style. Just like the Pilgrims, we had the traditional Thanksgiving lamb, the moussaka, the pasticho, the dolmades, the spanakopita, just like the Indians, and the Pilgrims.
Just like those Indians. So you're going to send me translations of what all that is? Because
oh, my God.
I have not a clue.
Are you serious?
I am serious. I am. I had God. Turkey, ham, stuffing, those kinds of things.
Oh my God! It was fantastic. And for all the people who are listening right now, and you happen to be Greek because you follow me, all the Greek stuff and everything that we do. It was simply outstanding. It really was. And to be with family, I've been on tour for a while and going all over the place, and it's just to sit home and relax, get drunk for a while. It was a lot of fun, to say the least.
Do you, Basil?
Yeah, no. I drink to excess a little bit. And it's okay. I just do something like that. I just, I like to have my little cocktails. Mm-hmm. I really do. I like to have my cocktails. But I'll tell you what, I'm really happy. I'll tell you this week with Richard Chapo. I got to be honest with you. Every time I can't say Chapo without doing it without a Latino accent. From the Three Amigos. Do you remember that movie, The Three Amigos?
I do, very vaguely, but I do remember The Three Amigos, yes.
Oh, my God. Every time they would say El Chapo, I got to say it like that, El Chapo. And this is not El Chapo. This is Richard Chapo. He's like unbelievable attorney, like an internet attorney. And so for those of you who really want to check out, see what's going on, you really have to see some of the stuff that he's doing and protecting yourselves. You really got to check it out. You really do.
Yep. When he comes on, I'm sure he will get us to his website. And interesting guy, very interesting guy.
Well, to say the least. I mean, as far as I know we were supposed to talk about El Chapo and what it means in English. I have no idea what it means. The only thing I could think about was the Three Amigos. And does Chapo actually have a meaning?
Is it like actually? Yes, I had to look that up because I said, well, what in the world? And it turns out it means shorty in English. Can you imagine?
Really?
This guy being called Shorty? That can't be a name he liked.
No.
Well, it is only like 5'4" or something like that.
I know. That's what it said. Something about it because of his height. They call him El Chapo. But
really,
seriously, that's crazy. Wow. How can he like that? Nobody who's short. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. You can't like being called Shorty.
Well, you know what? My father, as tall as I am, and I'm pushing 6'2", And I'm always waiting for that time where my height starts to decline, but it hasn't yet. But it's really unbelievable. My dad was only 5.
Bud.
Oh my God! Yeah, my father was 5'3". 5'3".
Wow.
I have this crazy hair. My father was bald at the age in his mid-20s. My father was 170 pounds wet. My dad was the most, and my father would keep looking at me going, "You are not my son." That's all I'm going to say. He was loving things like that. But listen, there's a couple of things I also want to say to people. I'm going to be in Youngstown, Ohio next week. That's right. The Funny Farm, Youngstown, Ohio, December 7th and 8th. 4 shows, folks. This is not a huge venue. You got to get your reservations now. Tickets are go for tickets. You got to call 330-759-4242. Youngstown, Ohio, at the Funny Farm. I will be there December 7th and 8th, and then I'm also going to go back soon to Australia. So I'm kind of excited about that.
That is exciting. When are you going back there? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm thinking about 9 months. We're trying to put. I've actually had some people. Request me to come back for larger, concerts and everything. So, very, 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 very funny.
Making a name for yourself in Australia. Go figure.
He's going back for the birth of his next child.
And what's your point? Thank you.
Leave it to Craig. Leave it to Craig.
Yeah, leave it to Craig.
I would never say anything like that.
No, that's all right, folks. I'm not worried. Listen, that's what we have pregnancy insurance for. Anyway, it's expensive, but it's well worth it. Jeez. Yeah, if you see a little kangaroo jumping around with crazy hair like mine, you know it's mine. Anyway, listen, I'm really excited because we got a lot of stuff that, we're going to talk about boredom and everything a little bit. But right now, we got to get back because we have things to do with our sponsors. They got to do that little thing called commercials. We'll be right back with a pinch of basil. Thanks so much. Mwah.
Here on America Matters.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
Well, we are back. You're listening to Basil all around the world. That's right, all around the world. I'm talking to my fans in Australia, South Africa, all the way through Europe. I'm talking the UK, all the way through Germany, down to Greece, and especially here in North America, where, of course, you have me in Canada, the US, and I am huge in Mexico City. I don't know why. They love me down there. Anyway, I am back on the air with a pinch of basil. You know what? I got to be honest with you. It was a crazy weekend. I have to look at the notes that I got here because I was laughing. Janice Hermsend, who is my wonderful co-host, she had some notes here. And you got to lead in with this story because you made me laugh with this.
Oh, are we talking about getting tips on boredom? Because I did a show this last week about boredom, and it was actually a pretty big hit.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Do people get bored? I mean, what do they get bored from? I mean, listen, my crazy life is all over the place. I know you have 101 things going on.
I don't get bored. But they even had tips for dogs, for keeping your dog from getting bored. I mean, that was pretty good.
How do you know the dog is bored?
Well, for me, you know how I know my dog is bored? I come home and there's paper everywhere. My dog loves paper, and if he can find it, oh my goodness.
He likes to read. He likes to read.
Yeah, he
Sports
loves to read.
Paper.
Yeah. That's it.
And then he can urinate on it afterwards if he doesn't like the news.
There you go.
Which I think
there you go. You think he'd go after food, but no.
No, not so much. No. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I love my animal. I've always loved all my animals. It didn't really matter, what kind of animals I had. May have been a dog, maybe been a cat, whatever the case is. And I love to tease cats because they are so like, I don't know, why are you here? That type of attitude. And I would take the laser pointer and drive the cat crazy. I mean, I would dot here, the cat would move his paw there, make it run around. Then one time, I'll never forget, I have a very, very long hallway, and it's all, wood floors and stuff like that. And I had the cat chase the little red dot on the pointer all the way down the hallway, and it was dark, and I didn't realize what I did. And the cat went right into the wall at full steam. I just said, and the cat comes back. He's like all dizzed out. He's like, hey, hey man, that wasn't cool. That just made me laugh.
Oh,
anyway,
my goodness.
But did you go shopping at all? Did you hit on any of the sales?
No. I am not a Black Friday gal. Not me.
No. I did my internet shopping. I did some shopping. I got to admit, I did go. I bought a car. So,
you
little
can do
things.
small things, right?
Let's see. Listen, man, when you make the kind of money I can, listen.
I see. I'm just not in the big leagues yet. Sorry.
Let me tell you something. My credit is so bad, I need a cosigner when I pay cash. Thank you, John Fox. I'm using your line. But anyway, God rest his soul. But anyway, it was actually a little bit crazy. I mean, you enjoy the holidays. We have the special traditions. It's kind of nice. The Thanksgiving was nice, but then you got to go out shopping for a while too and do that thing. I think it's fun to do that.
I'm kind of a last-minute shopper. I kind of always, not on purpose, I say, I'm going to shop early. I'm going to get it all done. I have purchased 3 gifts, one of which I already gave to my daughter, and so that, didn't work. And I just say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to shop. I'm going to go ahead of time. Yeah, no, it doesn't work.
It's not so much the shopping. What really kills me, and I think it's hurting the retailers, you have to put more people on registers to make it move quickly, because what's happening, you are slowly going to kill these stores.
We're impulsive. We're impulsive. I mean, we can go online and do it ourselves in seconds. So why would I wait in line?
Well, it kills me.
Yeah.
I hated shopping. It's kind of funny. We used to do our shopping the year after, when all the big sales would happen right after Christmas. Buy stuff for the following Christmas. Maybe shirts and this and that and little things.
But how do you know what size you're going to be the next year, right? I mean, come on. Maybe you don't do that, but up, down, in between.
There's 3 sizes I could possibly fit into: large, extra large, and oh my God, it's coming towards me. So if you get any of those, they will work for me. That's not a problem. No, I gotta be honest with you. It's not so much clothing, but I do buy clothing. Most of the people that I know don't fluctuate in weight that much. I do. God knows I can go up and down within a 20 pound this way and that way. But now I have to get ready for some of these projects that I'm doing, and now I gotta go back to Weight Watchers, and I'm not.
Oh, fun counting!
Yeah,
you're gonna be a counter.
I have to count the points. How many points is this? It looks like I'm a manager of a grocery store, because I got to take my scanner on my phone and pick up products, and I'm scanning by the point. So I got to go ahead and lose that. I gained about 15 pounds back during the hurricane, so now I got to take that 15 off. Well, really now 11, and then go ahead but clothes do not lie. That's all I would tell you. Clothes do not lie. And if you feel your clothes getting tighter, guess what? You're getting fat. So that's it.
That's it.
You need some holy intervention. And speaking of holy intervention, what do you have to tell me?
Oh, you must want to know about the singing nuns. You remember the singing nuns?
Well, I remember the song when I was a little boy. And
That's right.
Yeah,
well,
I do.
Now there is another group, and they are called the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, but they're known as Oprah's nuns.
Oprah has her own faith where she has nuns?
That's what I thought.
My God.
What does that mean, Oprah's nuns?
I pray to Oprah? Oh, my God.
They're Catholics as well, but they were on Oprah's show, and everybody loved them, and, everybody loves Oprah, so... They were called Oprah's Nuns, and they are going to be singing at this year's National Christmas Tree Lighting in Washington, D.C. on the 28th.
How beautiful is that?
I think it is. And I actually listened to some of their music. I was going to try and get Craig to play some of it, but I didn't have a chance to pull a clip. But it's beautiful. You can go online, you can find them, and they are doing awesome things. And, of course, they're not touring. They're nuns. They don't tour, right?
Well, unless you're the flying nun, Sister Patril, but that was so long ago. Anyway.
I know. Now, if your audience is young, they have no clue what you're talking about.
No clue whatsoever. Sally Fields. Very good.
That's
Sally Fields. But it's kind of funny. They're from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And That is where University of Michigan, I should say. And I bet you after that Ohio State game, they were singing the blues.
Yes, see that? Oh, that was
see
a good
line. Did that with the sports?
Yeah, I saw how you did that. That was really well done. Well done.
Well, I do whatever I can. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, that's unbelievable. And the Kansas Star reports the Dominican sisters, 3 of their recordings have already reached the top Billboard on Amazon's charts, and they're not even getting regular airplay.
That's right.
And they're already on top. That is unbelievable.
Yes, they did very well. Wow. You know, there are people out there that are just very envious of the fact that they've done this with no real. I mean, Oprah's big, but.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, even if you get on Oprah as a regular person, that doesn't mean you're going to be a star forever.
No, but I'm sure
good.
Books. Yeah, you got to be great. As a matter of fact,
yeah,
you just can't.
You're right.
Got to be great.
Yeah, good isn't enough.
No, not these days anyway. God knows. You know, and then what else? Let me see. Classical. I'm looking at this musical charts since release. NBC reported December 2nd, a few months after the album debut. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. They have done very well. And so, of course, because we were talking about the nuns and the singing nuns and all of that, I had to look up about movies because you just got to know how many movies there are about nuns. There's actually somebody who made a list of the best nun movies. Did you have any favorite nun movies?
I mean, the only one that I know is really The Sound of Music.
Oh, I know The Sound of Music, but what about Sister Act? Did you ever see Sister Act?
Yeah, that was great. It was fun. Whippy. I'm not a huge Whippy fan, but she was great. I have to admit,
to love the movie, it was fun.
I'm a Reno fan, and it was filmed here in Reno.
Was it really?
Yes.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's very, very, very cool.
Yeah, but you're right. I don't know a lot of the other ones, but I thought, well, maybe I'm going to go check some of these out.
Well, actually, The Bells of St. Mary's, of course, with Bing Crosby. That's an American classic that I always get a chance to.
But I guess you don't think about it as a nun movie, right?
Not really. I always thought that the priest was going to get it on with the nun in that movie. But then again, I'm a sex maniac, so that's my mind.
No, you're just a guy.
Yeah,
that's all you have to be as a guy. Yeah.
Yeah, the song of Bernadette. I don't know. I didn't. That one I didn't know. God, a Sister Act.
I never heard. I've just never seen Doubt. Never had Doubt.
No, never had Doubt. Okay. Black Narcissus.
Yeah, that's a new one to me too. But people add these movies that are their favorites. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Heaven Knows Mr. Allison. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I just remember the nuns being the ones that would smack my hand with a ruler. That was their favorite thing to do.
Oh my God! I remember one nun I'll never forget. I went to an Episcopalian school, and they took us to St. John's Catholic School because it was a bus issue. And I'll never forget, this kid got out of line. He was a Catholic school kid, and this nun, Sister Joe. I don't remember, but she had tattoos. And anyway, she jacks this kid, lifts him from his lapels, puts him against the wall, and screams at him. And I'm like, there is no way I'm ever going to be an actual Catholic. Just no way. I don't care what you do.
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
Oh, my God. That was just terrible.
You got used to it. You did something wrong. You put out your hand. You said, okay, go ahead.
Oh,
and
no,
you were done. Went back to work.
This woman jacked up people, and to be quite honest with you, it really scared the hell out of me. And I just, I just didn't want anything to do with this. Anyway, listen, folks, we're against that hard spot again, where we have to wind up doing our little commercial thing. So you're listening to A Pinch of Basil. Stay tuned. We got our guest coming right up. Thank you so much.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
You are back on A Pinch of Basil. Don't forget, I am streaming live on Facebook. That's right, I'm Basil Fans. That's right, BASILEFANS. Go there, you can see us. And it's going to be with my guest who's coming up just in a second, Richard Chapo. And he's going to be on with us. But listen, I want to also let you know that you can listen in on the TuneIn app or any phone or device. Once you have the app, just search America Matters. And if you're on the computer, go to americamatters.us US. And if you want to comment, go to my Basile fans page if you're watching. Have a question for my guests? Not a problem. Give us a call. Toll free, 844-790-8255. I am so honored at this very moment to have my next guest, Richard Chapo. He is an internet lawyer and a guy who has done a bit of traveling in his life. He lived in Russia for a year, so I wanted to ask his opinions on vodka. And he's also traveled through... Yeah, also traveled through Europe, Asia, Central America. Welcome to A Pinch of Basile, Richard. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Are you kidding me? That's fantastic. Tell me, where have you traveled? Where have you been? Where haven't you been?
It's obviously Russia, Central America. I haven't gotten into South America too much, or Africa. I'd love to do both, but some of the trips were shorter, but a couple of them were a good bit of time. Spent about 3 months in Asia and about a year in Russia and Siberia, of all places. And so, you get a pretty good taste of the culture there.
Did you wind up picking up any Russian or anything? Can you speak at all?
I can cuss like a sailor.
That's lovely. I'm
sure
your parents are very proud of you.
Yes. It's my natural heritage, I think. But a little bit. I didn't speak any when I went, and so it was a very, very humbling experience to say the least. But as you're there for a while, particularly when you're immersed, you start picking it up. It was a while ago though, so to be honest and say I can barely speak any of it right now. Did
you wind up drinking any vodka while you were there?
I did, yes.
Yes.
Just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit? Is this your liver talking, or am I talking directly to you?
Yes, I don't actually have a liver anymore. It was a daily occurrence. And plus, I was in a city where there hadn't been many Americans, many foreigners in the city that I was in. So I was somewhat of a circus act. And so, a lot of people wanted to meet me. Act. Yeah, look at the weird guy from the other country, and so they were very hospitable, but part of the hospitality, of course, was you drank vodka. So yes, there was a good bit of dating.
I go to Cyprus quite often. There's a lot of people from Russia that go to Cyprus, and I was sitting there falling in love with all these blonde-haired, blue-eyed, who I thought were Cypriot women. Not so much. They were all Russian women. I'm like, and also I looked at one of their invoices that they picked, and I saw their name. And there was an OV at the end. I said, no, that's not Greek. That's Norway's near Greek and or Cypriot. She is definitely Russian, but they're all beautiful over there, and there's a couple who are not, but listen, I want to get to some of these questions. Can you explain to me what is the splinternet and what is the impact online for online businesses in the environment? Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. The Splinternet's a concept that came up about, maybe 10, 15 years ago. We've always had this utopian idea that we'd have a worldwide internet. And, we probably had the Wild Wild West, if you will, right around the year 2000. Right now we're in a phase that's probably more like the Empire Strikes Back from Star Wars. And, governments and unions are coming in and they're kind of staking their claim online. And so we're actually seeing the internet, at least from the business side, starting to break into economic areas, if you will, North America versus Europe versus Russia versus Asia, because each area has different rules and different regulations. In the United States, we don't really take privacy very seriously in the online environment. In Europe, they treat it like free speech. It's much more strongly advocated and protected. And so a lot of businesses are getting to a point, unless you're a large business, but a lot of the smaller businesses are getting to a point where they have to sort of decide, where they're going to do business, because they have different compliance, requirements and costs and complexity in each jurisdiction. After a while, it gets a little crazy. Mm-hmm. And so you're seeing kind of a breakup in that sense. And then the concern is that will expand more into, the non-business side, because you're seeing some strange things like with Russia. Russia requires a lot of these large websites that collect personal information from Russians to maintain servers in Russia with all that information, and you can play the ominous music behind that. It's a lot of groups are doing it, but some groups haven't. LinkedIn, which is a business networking site.
Sure.
They haven't. If you're in Russia, you can't view LinkedIn. And you're starting to see that. The Europeans just passed a big privacy law when it went into effect in May. a lot of U.S. newspapers are no longer available online in the EU. So if you try to pull up the Los Angeles Times and you're in London, you can't view it. And so, yeah.
Now, is there a court to go to? Let's say someone takes, my website, basillive.com. What court do you go to if someone tries to rip off your website and puts a .au for Australia or a .uk for the United Kingdom or whatever? Is there anything that you can do about that? And because I always thought that once you have the .com or whatever, it's yours. But it seems that you have to go to every country almost to get the .uk or .au or whatever the case may be. Where do you go to complain about this?
Oh, there are different approaches. It depends on the countries. A lot of it, could come down to claims of cyber squatting if you're, well established. You can also run into trademark issues. So, for instance, a lot of countries are part of what's called the Madrid Protocol for trademarks, and what it essentially says is that all these different countries will honor each other's trademarks. And a domain name in most countries is viewed as somewhat of a trademark issue. So if IBM.com, if you go to IBM.uk, somebody else can't really pick that up unless they have a very specific usage that's different than the IBM, the large computer company, and people honor those. But other countries aren't members of that, and in those cases, it gets expensive and it gets complex very quickly.
So there's actually, this is Janice. Nice to meet you, Richard. There are actually things called cyber squatting, just like you squat on land or whatever. Now they're cyber squatting.
Oh yes, it's the internet. Everybody's got a way of making money. So when it first started, a lot of enterprising people went out and they purchased, domain names without any idea what they would build on those. So one of the famous ones was sex.com, and it was famous because the gentleman who bought it, who also started Match.com, his attorney stole it from him.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Yes, and allegedly, and
yes, of course.
There was litigation for like 10 years, and the attorney ended up down in Mexico somewhere, and it got it was a soap opera, but they eventually valued it at $20 million or something of that sort, because in that early age of the internet, people would type sex into a search box, and that domain would come up, so it was incredibly valuable.
Oh yeah.
And the extension of that then was, what if we take something like I don't know, Amazon, and we add an A onto the end of it, or people would look at their keyboards and they would type Amazon, and then they would see what key is close to the last N that you might accidentally click.
Yeah, that's very true.
And they would buy that domain.
It's the same way with me. I spell my name Basile.
Right.
But if you say Basil, you would sometimes do it without the E, and then, so we had to take Basil with the E, Basil without the E. For everything we decided to do, we had to make sure we protected ourselves with that, and then we just wind up making sure that, they're linked, and as soon as you put in the wrong one, they'll just jump to the actual, website that we have. Do
you have your .sucks?
No, I don't have .sucks.
There's a register in Canada that sells .sucks domains. And so,
really?
As you can imagine,
basilfansucks.com. Is that what you're saying?
No, it would be basilfans.sucks.
Yeah, I don't want that one. But I better get it real quick before one of my enemies don't take it from me, for God's sake.
Well, exactly. And when the domains came out, if you and I go out and buy a regular old domain, it's $12 or whatever. When .sucks came out, they had a pre-sale. To help potential companies. It was only $2,500 for a domain.
Oh, that's all. Oh,
that's it?
How kind of them.
Yes.
SUCKS, huh? That's what it is?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen, for those people who are listening right now, you're listening to The Pinch of Basil right now, and I have with me, and I got to tell you, I'm actually Richard Chapo. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Chapo?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Richard, there's a lot of people who want to start internet businesses. And one of the first critical steps they should take with a business partner. I mean, what should they do if they want to go ahead? What is that first step they should do before they even open up that internet business?
Essentially, what you want to do is, if you're going to have a partner, one or even more, is essentially get a prenup. It's called a founder's agreement. Mm-hmm. And the reason you want to have that is before any money or anything's coming in, you want to have an agreement as to who's going to do what they're going to be paid, and how essentially ownership will vest. Traditionally, there are quite a few businesses around the world, particularly in the U.S., that have what are called the zombie partners. And that is somebody who, after 6 months or a year, it turns out the business plan is wrong and you're not going to make $1 billion, in those first 12 months, and people lose enthusiasm, and one or two people stop, carrying out their duties, stop showing up, those kinds of things. And, the problem with business entities is they would still have an ownership interest, even though they don't show up. So you could technically fire them, but they're still going to get a piece of profits and things of that sort. It depends on the state. State law is all different, but that's the general idea. And so if you have a founder's agreement up front, you can set all this out, how you can fire people, that they lose their business interest or they don't vest in it, or, these different things. But you want to have that so that when you get 12 months to 18 months down the line, and you really know what the business is going to do, you'll have a mechanism for getting rid of essentially the zombie partners.
Wow. Okay. Oh, and to me, I always thought you get it down on paper real quick first, but there's so much more now involved with the internet, with any business. I don't care if you're an entertainer. I don't care if you're a store. I don't care whatever you're doing. You need to lay down that, legal documents, especially now with the internet. So is there a number for people to also get a hold of you if they have questions, or an email address before we go any further?
Sure. You can always reach me at Richard at SoCalInternetLawyer.com. SoCal, like Southern California.
Okay.
Always available there. Phone numbers are a little iffy because I'm often out of the office, but definitely email, and I usually respond within a day.
Oh, that's cool. That's very, very cool. All right, listen, for those who are listening right now, you're listening to A Pinch of Basil with my guest, Richard Chapo. I was on Chapo Ming.
It's like the drug lord.
Yeah, Chapo. So you're listening to A Pinch of Basil. We got to do that sponsor thing. We're going to be right back with more with Richard. Thanks for tuning in right now. We'll see you in a bit.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266.
Oh, we are back with A Pinch of Basil. I gotta tell you, this I've had texts already from a couple of my friends who are attorneys, one in Cleveland, one in Chicago, one in New York, and I'm like, dude, why are you bothering me? Text the show. Call in the show. If there are attorneys out there that want to learn more about this is the time to call in if you have any questions. Again, I got to be honest with you. Richard Chapo, or Chapo. I keep wanting to say Chapo, but it's Chapo. Richard Chapo Meng. I'm looking into the, dot sucks. And, it's a natural for me. BasilLive.sucks. So I'm thinking about doing it. It just makes sense for me to have that, to be quite honest with you. A couple of more questions. Now, look, this GDPR, why is it such a big deal for online businesses?
So the General Data Protection Regulation, it's a privacy regulation that just went into effect in the EU this year, this past May. And as I had mentioned previously, the EU takes privacy a little more seriously than we do here in the U.S. In the U.S., there's no national privacy law. We do have privacy laws for specific things like collecting information from kids or health records, but there's no overriding general policy. In the EU, has had one since 1995. But as you can imagine, if you think about the internet, 1995, things have advanced slightly since then. We have behavioral.
Just a touch.
I was going to say, just a little bit. Come on.
Just a wee bit. But, we have behavioral tracking and all these different things. You have what essentially is known as big data, where people's information is collected and used. And so the EU passed enacted this new regulation, which says basically that you have to have a legal basis for collecting information from people. And one of those bases is consent. If you've been on the web, in the last 6 months, you've probably noticed a lot of pop-ups, cookie pop-ups, warning you about cookies. That's something that came from that. But the bigger issue with it for companies outside of the EU is that it has a new territorial scope provision in it that says basically if you sell goods or services, even if for free, into the market in the EU, you now have to comply with the GDPR. And so you're faced with questions, take a U.S. company, take the Los Angeles Times or somebody like that.
Right.
Well, are they offering to the EU? And it's kind of up in the air, but the penalties are up to $24 million or 4% of your worldwide gross.
Wow.
So it's got some bite. And now, obviously, those penalties are really, intended for the Googles of the world. But it has bite. And so companies are now trying to figure out, do they have to comply with this? And if they do, how do they do it without spending, large amounts of money? And should they, if they comply with it in Europe, well, should they comply with it everywhere or not? And there are all these different questions. But it's opened up a whole new arena for businesses pretty much across the world, who do sell into Europe. And most people right now are trying to figure out where's that line, if you have one or two.
So then it applies to companies in the U.S. as well?
If they're selling into the EU.
Okay.
Or if they have, there are a couple other things. If they have what's called an established relationship with a party in the EU, which is as vague as it could be, or if they're monitoring people in the EU. The idea behind the GDPR is actually a good one, which is to say, people should have some control of their data. When people collect your information, and maybe you should be able to say yes or no to some of these things. But the problem is the regulation is written really poorly. It's extremely vague. So I'll give you an example. One of the legal bases for collecting information is consent. So you go to a website, something pops up, and you consent. You check a box consenting to them, emailing you offers or something of that sort. Well, in the EU, they're saying, okay, that's great. That's legal basis. However, consent doesn't last forever. It has it decays over time. Limit. Right. And so the obvious answer, which I'm sure all of us are thinking or the obvious question is, okay, well, how long does it last for? And the guideline that they gave out was an appropriate amount of time.
That was it. Oh, well.
That works,
nice.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
so, okay. It's kind of a running joke, among attorneys that work in this field, as to what exactly. Yes, it's how long will we be married? An appropriate amount of time.
Wow.
So it's a little difficult to provide advice to your clients when you get that kind of guidance. And there's a number of different areas where that happens. But, but it is the big revolution because, when we were talking about the splinter net, a lot of companies now are trying to gauge whether it makes sense, to just block the EU.
Sure.
And block traffic from there, because if you have, a small number of sales there, if in your case, if you only went on tour in the U.S., you never went to the EU, which I'm sure you do, but, if you didn't and you sold, 20 CDs or something, well, does it make sense to spend that money to get into compliance or just to block? And that's kind of how, we're seeing the roots of the splinter net start to grow, and it'll probably continue.
So what does the new California Privacy Act require for an online business?
The new California Act is one of the great moments in political satire. The European Union, the GDPR we just discussed, it took between 4 and 6 years, depending on when you think it started, for them to negotiate and write the entire document. The California Act took 7 days.
Oh.
Wow.
Yes, and essentially what had happened was a wealthy developer had seen the GDPR, thought it was a great thing, and in California, if you have enough money, you can go out and try and get various bills, they're called initiatives, added to the ballot. He did, and polling showed that this thing was going to pass. And the problem was it was written so poorly that it conflicted with other California laws, and it would have almost been impossible to comply with, because the minute it went into effect, or it was voted through this last election, businesses would have had to comply. There was just no way they could. It wasn't a matter of did you want to or not. There's just no way to put the systems in place.
Right.
And so they worked out a deal in Sacramento where they said, okay, looks like this is going to pass, so we're going to let you, we're just going to initiate the law now. And so they did it in 7 days, and it was a complete disaster, of course, and they've been trying to fix it since then. It doesn't go into effect until January 2020, and the Attorney General in California, who's responsible for enforcing it, has shown a serious lack of enthusiasm for it, and it's said that they're not even going to issue regulations until the summer of 2020, 6 months after it goes into effect. But the basic idea is similar to the GDPR. There doesn't need to be a legal basis to collect information, but there has to be a lot of disclosures to people about what you do with their information. Here's what we're collecting. Here's how we use it. And then they have the right to say, no, don't use it that way. Or, I don't want you doing this, or I want a copy of all my information. And so it's, in many ways, even though I joke about it, it's a far superior bill to the GDPR because it's more reasonable, there's more balance to it, and it also has a threshold. So there are 3 thresholds that a business has to meet one of them before it has to comply. And that's you have $25 million in sales, you generate more than 50% of your revenues by selling the personal information to people, or you get more than 50,000 unique visitors to your site or your app a year. And the good thing about that is it lets little businesses grow. Without having to deal with all the compliance efforts. So in that sense, it's better than the GDPR. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be interesting when it comes out.
What about the DMCA? And it's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. How does that work into everything that we're doing here?
Sure, it's a federal law. It was enacted in 1998, and it tries to address copyright disputes online. If you think back to the 70s, committing copyright infringement was somewhat difficult. It was labor intensive. If you take a novel, I don't know, Stephen King novel or something, and you wanted to copy and resell it, you'd have to break it apart, copy all the pages and what have you. Well, now with the web, it's just, right click, copy, save, and republish.
Right.
And so the concern was courts were going to just get swamped with copyright lawsuits. So they passed this act, and the key part of it for what we're talking about is Section 512, and it says that as long as a website is passive and doesn't actively post things, it can't be held liable for copyright infringement based on something a user posts. So if we think about Facebook, let's say a classic case, people are posting images and articles and everything to their to their walls all the time.
Right.
And the law is essentially saying Facebook isn't liable for that. Now, the person who posted it can be. But the idea was to try to create an environment where websites could actually grow, and this internet community could grow as a commercial platform without sites just getting crushed for copyright infringement. And there's some questions now about whether, maybe some of that immunity should be pulled back. In Europe, you're starting to see that. They're passing a new copyright law. Again, Europe kind of going sideways with this, but they're going to have a link tax. And what it's going to say essentially, yes, this is quite a fascinating concept. One of the problems with the internet, of course, is it's hurt a lot of different businesses, but news being one of the big ones, particularly newspapers. And so in Europe, they're proposing to say that if you link to, a verified news site, articles from a journalist or something like that, you're going to have to pay a tax.
Oh, great. More tax. That's what we need.
More tax.
Right?
Well, I was just the other day, I was telling Kula, honey, is there anything else we can spend more tax on? And, she said, what? This link tax I've been hearing about is huge. And I said, okay, I really want to do something with that. Listen, I got to tell you, Richard, the one thing, because this is extremely interesting because I have a legal background as well. So I've been going back and forth with some of my friends here, and I've been looking at the phone because they're texting me. They won't text you. I don't know why, but what I want to do is because I'd love to have you back on here, especially for those lawyers that are friends of mine, who I went to school with, who I know personally. This is something fantastic. So I want to just take a second here to thank you so much for being a fantastic guest. And I hope to see you and hear from you again very, very soon.
Well, thank you for having me on. It was a great time.
Not a problem, man.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
All right, folks, don't forget to listen every week on Tuesday from 6 to 7, New York City time. We can be heard all around the world on America.us. If you are using the TuneIn app, you can just go ahead and search America Matters. Be sure to keep us on as one of your favorites. You are listening to A Pinch of Basile. I'll talk to you all later.